Hey everyone, I wanted to make this quick small video where just wanted to highlight the importance of one thing, which is exploring the various documentations available on the web regarding the things which you are learning right now. Let's say HTML, CSS, these things, and later we'll learn React and all these things. So it's very important that we go to the original documentations, and that's why I wanted to highlight that what we mean by original documentations and what should we refer and what we should not refer. So what currently right now we are studying React, HTML and JavaScript, right? For that, Mozilla will be the Bible for you. So this is like very old, from the very early days of the internet, and they have created like one of the most popular browsers, which is like Mozilla Firefox. And this is an excellent resource where you can find anything related to the web, which will involve either HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or other things like service workers, web services, or anything related to web. You will be able to find it here. And that is not the most important thing. The important thing is that you can trust, you can rely on these resources, because these are written by developers. On not only that, they have been reviewed over the years and years, reviewed by other developers. So basically these documentations have gone through the eyes of experts, right? And that's why you can vouch for the quality and accuracy of these things. So let's say any normal thing, let's say HTML button element, right? If you type, then let's say this is Mozilla documentation, then this is the one which you should go through. Here it is coming, the first link, that is fine. However, let's say as I type HTML input element, right? And let's say some other link is coming, in the first link, right? Then also you should scroll and go to the Mozilla documentation, right? And then you should read that, rather than rather than going to other links which are like not that good. So what happens that obviously there will be other links also which are very good, but the problem is that it might be that they are not comprehensive, right? They are not covering everything. Why? Because our purpose here for going to Mozilla is not to learn input element, right? In fact, you should read other resources for learning HTML input, right? In fact, we will have or we already had sessions where we discussed what is input element. So you are not, it's not that you are trying to get introduction to that thing, right? That can be done in many ways. The purpose which you are trying to do right now is to explore the details, and exploring means it has to be a reference, not a cookbook, right? And Mozilla is exactly that. It is a reference. It will feel like it is overwhelming, it's like a lot of things there. Do I need that much details? Okay, but don't go through all those details, right? Go through just the overview of it. Scan the whole thing and see that whether that thing which I am looking for is there or not, right? Don't think that this is complicated. You have to like sort of find the needle in the haystack, that what you're looking for. And this thing will be huge. Like even if you work in this thing for like web development for decades, then also you'll keep on coming to things, and nobody can know everything, right? So you have to go and read the documentation. So but for example, the top results Google will give, how, which are the more popular ones, right? The more popular ones will be what, where people are getting, where the sites which are getting more traffic. Now these websites, like there are more people who are looking to learn HTML online rather than looking to explore in detail the intricacies of input element, right? And that's why these links are coming on the top. In fact, these first of all, they will not be that much comprehensive. Why? Because that is not their purpose. It's not that they're bad, it's just that that is not their purpose. If they will make it that much detailed, then that is not the target audience. The target audience is like normal people who don't know much, and they are trying to just go through very basic things, right? That is the target audience. That's why they are not, that is not that much deep or comprehensive. Apart from that, you will find sometimes mistakes in these sites, other sites, right? Why? Because it's not that everywhere mistakes happen, right? In Mozilla also mistakes happen. What is the advantage? Advantage is, since it is open source and lots of developers are working through it. So let's say I went through it and I found some typo, some mistake, or anything, right? You know what, you can just go to this page, right, and you can contribute to this page, right? If you do that, then you see that the whole quality of this page is going to be improved, right? So for example, you can see that you have found a problem on this page, then edit on it, this page, which means that you can click here, go to the exact you can log into GitHub and you can see the exact page, source code of that page. You can fix whatever is missing, and then you can raise something called pull request, which means that they will try to merge your changes after verification, which means that it has gone through so many eyes that if there is any mistakes, that gets rectified very quickly. So that is the advantage. And more importantly, that these things are like sort of documentation, that they will have everything. So let's say somebody, even when we are creating videos, like, then we will discuss, let's say, two or three of them or four of them, and they will have like 10 or 15 attributes, right? Most of them you'll not understand right now, or sometimes you will might not need, like in 5 years, 10 years also, you might not need those things sometimes, right? But when you need, then you have to come here, right? And then you have to understand that what is that. If somebody in some website or some blog, it is trying to suggest something, then okay, he suggested or she suggested, but what does that mean actually? Then you have to come back to the documentation, and that comprehensively will be only catered here, right? Especially for the web part. There are other websites also though. For example, the first one is Mozilla, right? Second one is that you can rely definitely on Stack Overflow also, right? So Stack Overflow, if you ask any questions and if you get answers, and you see that those answers, whatever are the most let's say simply how to center a div or something like that, let's say normal something question, right? Then if some Stack Overflow question is, so again you see that some blogs and something will come. Again, Stack Overflow is also, even if it is up after a few links, then go through that, because the highest rated answers in these are also very good, right? And even if some mistake is here, then always there will be comments, where if some small thing they have missed, then that comments will be there here. And if comment is really good, then a single line of comment will get very number of high votes. You see why? Because they know that somebody else went through this answer and again went through this comment, and they got a lot of value out of it, which means that this is exactly what you want, that a place where you can get to the point answers, rather than just going through normal tutorial websites, or just going to some blog randomly, or some Medium article here and there, right? That is good for some here and there thing, but if you specifically you are looking for something, then top quality answers to Stack Overflow and Mozilla, right? These two will help you a lot. Apart from that, as we will learn more HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and we will start doing some serious web development, then there is another website by Google called web.dev. Okay, so this also has lots of good articles, and it has proper learn section also, where you can learn proper. But then the thing is that sometimes it will basically have more advanced articles. Yeah, so after some time, web.dev is fine. Initially, for right now, Mozilla will be more than enough. In fact, you'll come back to Mozilla even after many years also, because this is actually the main documentation. But I'm saying that apart from Mozilla, some other things you will also start appreciating once you have some little knowledge. But the main point is that go back to the root documentation. So Mozilla is considered the root documentation, the main documentation for web, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? Similarly, let's say when we learn React.js, then the official website of React is this reactjs.org. This will serve as the root documentation. Similarly, let's say we are learning Express.js, and later we'll learn, right? Then the root documentation will be its official site. So we have to take into consideration that rather than just going through here a couple of videos here or some couple of blogs here and there, that is fine for learning, but you have to be always be aware that even like a full fledged, let's say 1 year some course you did, then also it is not sufficient, let alone watching randomly here and there a couple of videos. The main, nobody can teach you the whole thing. In fact, it just cannot be taught. It just has to be consumed on a regular basis, and then slowly you grow, right? There has to be some foundations, but after that you have to keep on working towards that, right? For that you have to learn, not get overwhelmed by the documentation. So let me give you an example that how we can explore some of the parts of the documentation. So, for example, let's take one question which one of the people asked in one of my sessions. So, the question was, they were trying to tinker through some of the content, and they realized, one person realized that this thing, let's say there is currently a box with a background image as a gradient. Then instead of solid, if I put, let's say dashed, right? Then we will see that okay, here this color is changing. This is not like continuous, like some color is changing, right? It is more visible if you let's say have the width as 20, right? The border width, you can clearly see that the color is discontinuous. Like, so is it the case that this color has come here or this color has come here, right? It is more prominent if apart from dashed, if I use dotted, then it will be even more prominent. It is clearly visible that this whole strip like should be pink, looks like, but it is like okay, orange, and this side it should be orange but it is pink. But why it is the case? Why it is the case? Firstly, we have to understand that. Okay, so firstly, if you're not understanding, then you will try to do a googling a bit, right? After that, the exact thing which you are the problem which you are facing, if the exact question you have not found anywhere, right, then you will try to tinker through and mostly in even if you don't find the exact answer, some related fields you will find, so that you can start from there. So for example, this same issue I also faced years back, and after that I was not I actually didn't bother to find the answer or explore, and then moved ahead, or I forgot or something like that. But the point is that when the person asked me that question, then I was also not aware of the answer, right? So I did a bit of research this time, and then came to some conclusions that okay, so this background thing is somewhat some trick thing is happening. Let's go through the background documentation. So background CSS, right? Then let's go to the Mozilla documentation, right? We know that background is a CSS shorthand property, so which means that it stands for many things. Now, as I said, everything among this might not be covered in the sessions, right? But then it will be our job to go and explore through the things. So for example, background clip is covered in our videos, but it might be that you might see lots and lots of more details, more nuances, more corner cases, more issues and concerns might be here, right? So this can be a better place for going in deep, right? Apart from that, there might be some properties which are not covered at all. So let's say background attachment we covered. Background origin might be that we have not covered. So which means that as you grow, then you come to know about various different things, right? However, here, as you keep on researching this, then suddenly you might realize at one point of time that okay, you know what, can it be the case, that this thing is basically not wrong, this thing is correct. It might be just that like normal images repeat, can it be the case that this background thing is also repeating? Miss, my claim is that can it be that case that from here to here gradient is there, and from here again the gradient is starting, new gradient is starting, and that left part of that new gradient is here. And it might be that on the left part again another gradient is there, and the rightmost part of that gradient is here, which means that these are separate three gradients. This is separate gradient, this is separate gradient, this is separate gradient, this is the left part of another gradient, this is the right part of another gradient. Can it be there? Okay, if that is the case or not, how we can prove that? We can prove that by one of the properties in the documentation, right? So we saw that okay, background repeat is the one that repeats. Let's try to set this background repeat thing to no repeat, and let's see that what happens. So background repeat, no repeat, and if we save that, then we will see that okay, that is exactly the thing, that not only the left and right, actually the top and bottom were also separate gradients altogether, which means that actually the gradient is only this much, and the all the four sides were repeated gradients. And why only this side it was issue showing? Why? Because on the top side the same gradient is repeated, right, from pink to orange. Above also was pink to orange, so it was showing like it is okay, it is like, but that was actually a separate background image altogether stacked together with this, and that's why that thing was happening. Okay, now we can understand that okay, we are somehow getting closer to our solution, that we are somehow getting the root cause. Since we have got the root cause, now we can definitely fix that also, because once you find the solution issue, then only you can fix that, right? Now we have found the issue, that this is the root cause. Now how to fix that? So we'll see that okay, is somewhere in the documentation is some other property allows us to exactly do that. Okay, now that is where the exploration part comes in, that you have to go through each of the things and see that if something like that exists, or you google and you get some hints and you come again back to that property and see that something like that is there or not. Actually the answer in this case is background origin. So if you go to background origin documentation, then see it says that it sets the background's origin from the border start inside border or inside body, right? Okay, they have given a demo that if I set it to border box, then it is something like this, and this is, if I do then something like this. This is exactly what was happening, is that if somehow I move this origin starting point of the background from here to here, then it will work, right? So now I don't go into need to go into that much detail, because basically now I have understood that its values are like box type, right? Padding box, border box, right? And let's see, at the end of the documentation mostly you will see its default value, which is padding box, right? Now we know what is padding box, we know what is content box, we know what is border box, right? So now we can play around on our own on this thing, that okay, so it looks like it has a default value of background, it has a default value of padding box, which means that if I set background origin to padding box, then nothing should change because this should be the default value, right? Yeah, correctly, nothing has changed. Now if I change it to content box, right, then also nothing has changed. Okay, okay, why is that? Because there is no padding, which means the content box and padding box both are same right now. However, the other thing, border box will not be same. Why? Because we are right now having a border of some width. So let's try to set it to border box. Now if we set it to border box, then we see that yeah, the problem is fixed. Exactly, this is what we wanted, if we wanted this, right? Now the issue is that you might not want this sometimes. So let's say this is dashed, right? Then also this thing might be fine, right? But what if this thing is solid? If this thing is solid, then this thing is whole solid and background image is there, but that background image is starting from here rather than here. You might not want that. You might want that the whole shade of the color should start from here and end at here, whatever is visible, which means that whatever is the default behavior which was the padding box, right, that thing is the default one. You might customize it to fill your needs, but that might not be the thing which by default browsers will want to do, and that's why they have a different default thing as per the specification, right? So for example, here we know that that thing is not working as per our expectation. Okay, so this thing is the default behavior. I want something else. I want that thing which we just said, right? However, just wanted to tell you that how we can say that it is so in documentation we saw, right? In documentation we saw that it is written that for background origin, the for let me see. Okay, for background origin, the default is padding box. Now again, you can test it out. You can test it out that why padding box is there. So everything what you learn, you might need to test it out. So here we'll see that how we can test. We can see that okay, I know that there is no padding and there is no content also. So how we can test the padding? So let's create some other div inside it, right? And let's give it a height. Let's give it a class of, let's say, my class 2 or something, and then we will style this class first. So we will give it height, some height, which is like, let's say, same 200 height, right? So that thing should be fine. But apart from that, let's say I give it some border. Okay, and we can see that okay, it is exactly that. But what if I give some padding? So let's say or margin. So padding I can give here, but if I give margin here, then let's give padding only. So let's give padding here. So if I give padding of, let's say, 10 pixel, then we will see that it is behaving like this. So you can see that it is not starting from here, it is starting from here. And that's why we can claim that the background origin is padding box rather than content box, because if it would have been content box, then it would have started from here. Now this might be again the thing which you want in your scenario, then you change it to padding box, that is fine, but right now it is not needed. Okay, not only this is not needed, in fact, if you don't use at all, then whatever the default, that will also not work for us. What will work for us? I need the background origin to be on the side of the border, which means that it should be border box, and this is what I want right now. So if I do that, then I see that okay, now this thing is not needed, and if there is dashed or any type of thing, that in both cases what I wanted then dashed DA. Let me see. Yeah, in that case, whatever I wanted, and that I achieved, right? So this is what I was saying, that again, you go through the documentation in detail, and the point which I was trying to make is that reading the documentation is one of the most important things for a developer, and whether it is HTML, CSS or JavaScript. In JavaScript also, for all functions, for all specific things, we should come back here and read it, not end to end, not cover to cover, just go through the parts which we want, and then get a deeper idea. Then again, after a few months, you will come again and then get a more deeper idea, and that is how over the years you progress, rather than getting overwhelmed by it and not going there in the first place. Okay, so that should be all. That just I wanted to give a heads up regarding this way, because otherwise nobody can explain the whole thing. Because even if I say a thing for do a session for like a set of videos for 1 year, then also everything I cannot teach, right? So in that sense, reading the documentation is very important. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next video.